When you have
Mhm.
a real connection with someone, it surpasses the physical aspect of your life. You're always inspired by them.
Yeah.
You're always wanting to honor them. I'm constantly being reminded of things Hustle would tell me that now makes more sense now than it did then.
Yeah.
I just think it just really, that's why it is a LA love story.
But she looked good, huh?
Man, tell her again. Tell her again.
Right? No, it's your turn. You have
I've been
to
telling her all week. She been killing it. She been making me look better, For sure.
She grew up without her father. She fought through a custody war that played out in headlines across the world. She inherited millions, but no amount of money could fill that void. And now, at 18 years old, Imani Dior Asghedom is navigating Los Angeles on her own terms. And some people in the community are quietly asking hard questions about the path she's walking. Here's everything you need to know. Nipsey Hussle, born Ermias Asghedom, was not just a rapper. He was a business owner, a community builder, and a father who went from growing up in Crenshaw's gang culture to buying back the block he came from, opening Marathon Clothing on Crenshaw and Slauson, hosting free health fairs, brokering gang truces, and sitting down with lawmakers about intervention programs. On March 31st, 2019, he was shot and killed in front of his own store by Eric Holder, a man from the same neighborhood. He was 33 years old. His murder shook the culture in a way that very few deaths have, and it left behind two children who would have to grow up carrying his legacy in public while processing their grief in private. Imani Dior Asghedom was born November 9, 2008, Nipsey's firstborn, from his relationship with Tanisha Foster. She was 10 years old when her father was killed. She was old enough to understand what she'd lost, and too young to fully process what that would mean for the rest of her life. The tributes came from Jay-Z, LeBron, and Barack Obama. The vigils outside Marathon Clothing drew thousands. The whole world was grieving her father, and Imani had to navigate her own private grief inside that very public storm, with no quiet space to fall apart. Then came the custody battle, which made things significantly harder. In the weeks after Nipsey's death, his family, his brother Sam Asghedom, known as Black Sam, his sister Samantha, and his mother Angelique, moved to obtain legal guardianship of Imani. Their concern was that Tanisha Foster was not in a position to properly care for her. Tanisha initially agreed to the arrangement, citing her own financial limitations and wanting Imani to stay connected to Nipsey's family and their world. But the arrangement didn't hold the way Tanisha expected. In 2022, she filed a petition to have the guardianship terminated. In court documents, Tanisha wrote that Imani routinely asked when they were going to be able to live together, that her daughter longed to be with her mother, and that there was no longer a need for guardianship. She said the family had used their financial power and influence to restrict her access to her own daughter, and that promises made at the start of the arrangement were never fully honored. On the other side, a family fiercely protective of a child they loved and the legacy of a man they lost. For years, Imani was caught directly in the middle, grieving, growing up, and watching the two sides of her world fight over her in courtrooms while she was just trying to be a teenager. In March 2025, the battle reached a resolution. According to court documents filed on March 5th, Tanisha Foster was officially granted joint physical and legal custody of Imani, sharing that custody with Black Sam. The breakdown is 60% of Imani's time with her mother Tanisha, the remaining 40% with her uncle Sam. Nipsey's mother Angelique and sister Samantha stepped down from their co-guardian roles as part of the new agreement. Tanisha retained her full parental rights, something she had been fighting for formally since 2022. The court language also confirmed that Imani should continue all existing academic and extracurricular activities, regardless of which household she was in. In families dealing with the aftermath of a high-profile death, especially when real money and power are involved, custody battles rarely end this cleanly. The fact that both sides reached an agreement rather than forcing a judge to decide suggests the priorities eventually shifted back to what was actually best for a teenager who was old enough to have a real voice in shaping the outcome. Now let's talk about the financial picture, because that's part of what gives this story its complexity. In November 2023, Black Sam filed a full accounting of Nipsey's estate, and the number that came out was $11 million. About $7 million in various bank accounts and $4 million across business interests. 100% membership in All Money Incorporated, Marathon Studios, Marathon Touring, Marathon Clothing Incorporated, and Nipsey's full trademark portfolio. Imani and her younger brother Cross are the sole beneficiaries, each receiving a 50% share. Cross is still a minor, so his share is managed by his mother Lauren London, technically making her a part owner of Nipsey's businesses. Imani's share has been managed through the guardianship arrangement with Black Sam. Black Sam has been the engine keeping Nipsey's business legacy alive. Marathon Clothing is still operational, both the physical store on Slauson and the online shop. He's developing a Marathon Burger restaurant near the original location, a fast food concept on the same block where Nipsey laid his foundation. That kind of expansion tells you the family isn't just sitting on legacy money, they're building. Black Sam has also teased the possible release of unreleased music Nipsey worked on before his death, while making clear publicly that nothing gets released that Nipsey didn't personally put his stamp on. That integrity around the catalog matters. Lauren London has been equally active in carrying the mission forward. In 2024, she partnered with Microsoft and Earn Your Leisure to launch the Nipsey Hussle 100K Pitch Competition, a $100,000 grant for Black entrepreneurs, a direct continuation of one of Nipsey's deepest passions. She has used her platform, her acting career, and her position within the estate to keep that work alive every year since his death. So the business infrastructure is intact and growing. The family has resources most people can't imagine. And the culture has surrounded Imani with more love and protection than most young women growing up in South Central will ever experience. In November 2024, she posted a clip on social media, and the response was overwhelming. People who knew her father personally, fans from around the world, all showing up in her comments to pour love onto Nipsey's daughter stepping into her own. She has his eyes and his energy in a way that is genuinely striking. But here's what needs to be said plainly, because this is the part the culture is quietly sitting with. Inherited wealth doesn't change a zip code. The mural of Nipsey's face is painted around the corner from where Imani sleeps. The store that carries his legacy is the same spot where he took his last breath. Crenshaw is still Crenshaw. The rollin' 60s culture that shaped Nipsey, that shaped Black Sam, that shaped everyone around her, it hasn't transformed just because a legend preached transformation. Nipsey spent the last years of his life trying to slowly reform that world from the inside while remaining connected to it. And the unfinished nature of that project is part of what makes Imani's situation so heavy. The concern people in the community are raising, not accusations, genuine concern from people who loved her father, is about who is doing the daily intentional work of making sure she isn't pulled into the same gravitational force that eventually took him. Black Sam is building businesses and managing a legacy. Lauren London is running grant competitions. But Imani is a teenager navigating Crenshaw in real time, carrying a name that opens every door and a weight that follows her through everyone. That pressure can push a young person in directions that no amount of money can course correct on its own. The tragic irony is that Nipsey's death may have broken the exact protection he was building for his daughter. He understood this cycle better than almost anyone. He used to say the marathon continues. The grind doesn't stop, the mission doesn't stop. He was talking about his community, and he was talking about his children. Imani is the living continuation of that marathon now, carrying it without the person who built the course. She is also 18 years old, standing on her own, still here and still moving forward. For a child who lost her father the way she did, in front of the entire world at 10 years old, that forward motion is not a small thing. Every appearance, every post, every birthday is proof that she is still in the race. What the culture hopes for her is simple. Not that she be Nipsey Hussle's daughter forever, performing his legacy for an audience that never let her grieve privately, but that she gets to figure out who Imani Dior Asghedom is on her own terms, with people around her who love her for that, not for what her last name represents. The marathon continues. Right now, it continues through her. Drop a comment. What do you think Imani's future holds? And do you think the systems around her are doing the work required to give her a real shot?